and if we haven't, I also think it's important to actually let them know what kind of help you might need, because I think going through the school is an easier way to get help than trying to get help through any other channel, because the school as an institution will have access to social workers, occupational therapists, all of the other partners who would normally deliver support to your child in school. So don't be alarmed if the school get in touch. I mean, my daughter said that, you know, some parents, you have to give permission, obviously, for your child to speak to the teacher. But again, you can do that, and you can be in the same room as your child. There's no issue. But just so you know that's happening, and that's actually something that's taking place. So I've just got your message. Sorry about that. I can't talk and type at the same time. So there may be a lag on what I'm saying. So we've had lots of communication from the SENCO. We've also got an annual review going on. And the other thing to be aware of is that even though the schools are closed, the idea is that the children get the same support, and that they process all of the admin that they would normally be doing. So if your child has an EHCP and it needs to be updated soon, or they're going to transition into secondary, you know, you still need to make sure there are teachers in school, even on their skeleton staff. Make sure that you can, you know, keep a track of what's going on, because it's going to be like an avalanche when they go back to school with all the paperwork and all the backlog. I mean, it's always a struggle to get the paperwork updated and get what you need for your child without what's going on. So what's happening now will create a lot more paperwork. So do ring the school. If they haven't contacted you and you have an issue, get in touch. Put your point in email so it's dated, and you can just get that, keep that on top of that. Okay, so but do ask for help if you need to. So the next thing I wanted to talk about really was some nice little diagrams for you. Talk about this. You see that? S.E.N.D parenting. So obviously I'm no artist, but I like to use visuals to explain things. So what I've got here is the balance that we all face, trying to get somewhere between, you know, the mix of calm that we need and also the motivation. Those are the two things I wanted to talk about today. And there's quite a lot of things why we need to be calm with our children, particularly at the moment, because they've gone through this shock of not being at school, not having their routine. Everything is sort of in turmoil, and it's not altogether surprising if they're going to have a temper tantrum. They might feel stressed out, there might be meltdowns. And I think a lot of the time, because we don't see them when they're at school, we don't appreciate how much of their energy is expended at school. But now they're at home with us, we can actually see, and we have to manage the full scope of everything that's going on. And in addition to that, we are also expected to be managing their home schooling. And I have got some links to articles I've written about homeschooling, and I will say really strongly that I like to call it home learning, because, you know, it's not school. We don't have the resources or the space or the infrastructure that a school has. So the best we can do is to try and ensure that they are learning something every day, whether or not you can split it into key stage 1, key stage 2. The point is, as long as they are happy, they will then learn something with you. Hello, hi there, Esther. So, so in terms of calm, there are a number of things we can do with calm to calm children down if they're having a meltdown. And one of the things that is really current at the moment, there's mindfulness, and there's also all of the breath work. So the reason this does work is that it's to do with changing the physiology in the body. So what we've got is a situation of overwhelm. So, you know, if you could be trying to work with your child in the kitchen and then there's, you know, there's noises from next door, and there's things going on, the doorbell's ringing, and you know that it's very difficult to manage their sensory overload at home. Even though you might think, well, home should be a quieter place, it can be just as noisy. So we've got all of that extra noise and stimulus and things going on, and overload of information. So the breathing is really, really important. And some of the things that teachers use is they use a technique called blowing out the candle. So you can use a technique I just used, the 4-5-6, with them, just to get them out of that funk when they're kind of completely lost it. But the other thing that teachers use is blowing out the candle. So asking them to take a long breath in, and then pretending they're blowing out a birthday cake with 6 candles if they're 6, or 10 candles if they're 10. So what we're getting there is a lot of oxygen into the body, and then a lot of release of all that tension when they're doing that long blow to blow out the candles. So that's a really good technique you can use. Another one is called belly breathing. So they literally put their hand on their tummy, and then they do lots and lots of short breaths. And that can also recalibrate the body and get them out of that immediate sort of funk if they're sort of screaming or having a tantrum. So those are 2 techniques that are really easy to use and really effective. The main thing to think about really is to keep yourself calm. And that's kind of why I start everything by trying to ground myself, because what we're trying to do is not easy. It's not easy even without lockdown. So I think we've got to be kind to ourselves and understand that what we're being asked to do is very difficult, and acknowledge that, and not to get into like a head-to-head battle with the child, because ultimately they are distressed, they are you know, concerned and frightened, and they're looking to us to give them answers and to make them feel safe. And that's a really critical point to sort of human behaviour, which is the aspect of feeling that as long as we feel safe and our basic needs are met, such as, you know, food and sleep and warmth and comfort, only when all those basic needs are met can we then think about, you know, our intellect and our learning. So there is a hierarchy. It's actually the Maslow hierarchy. And at the very bottom level of that is safety and security. And what's happened with this whole lockdown situation is we've kind of pulled the rug out of underneath our children's and our own feet to an extent. So we've got to a point where what was normal and secure and safe doesn't feel safe anymore. So we've all got the same stress response, you know, the fight or flight. And but I think with children, because sometimes if it isn't as easy to calm them down or explain what's going on, we have to do that for them. We have to help them get to that point of calm, just so they can feel safe and function. And the key thing to remember is, if we can't get to that point of calm and that point of you know, safety, if they feel safe with the world and safe in their home, they are not going to learn anything at all. You know, forget schooling, forget everything. So just, you know, focus on your own calmness and mental health first of all, then share some ideas with your children, and then, and only at that point, can you think about perhaps motivating them to get dressed, do something with you, you know, take part in what's happening in the house. Then you might get into that point of, you know, a motivation, but it is definitely a step-by-step process. So the kind of things that we need to think about is, if we want to look at motivating children, is looking at what activities they are doing. Well, I don't know about your kids, but mine are mainly sitting down on a screen. So, you know, getting into that headspace and motivating them is quite difficult. And I have heard that some schools are putting quite a lot of pressure on parents to get things done and get homework done. And it's a bit of a concern that some of the senior figures are talking about going back to school in a staggered process, and some are even debating whether they're going to have to redo a year. So there's a lot of things that are up in the air. But I think it's important that we just keep a level head and do our best in terms of what our children can do. But certainly if we can motivate them to move around and oxygenate the body with blood, and increase their levels of activity and increase their feel-good chemicals like the serotonin and dopamine, then we're in a good place for them to start doing some learning. So some quick tips for home learning: use visuals like I do, because visuals are easier to digest. If I were trying to explain all this from words, it probably about four or 5 pages. So, make it easier. I mean, it doesn't have to be great, but just draw things to help them with their learning. And, get them to draw things, actually. That was a good thing to do. Take breaks. Having breaks is good. Avoid or limit their triggers. If you don't know what their triggers are, now is a really good time to work that out. And that will help you when they go back into school, because that will be another transition and another change. So try and understand and map out what their triggers are, and give lots of vocal praise. It's really important to lay on the praise. And then finally try and look at motivating them around things that they want to do that are child-led. And that's a negotiation, obviously, between the two of you and your child. So, on to the next. A lot of the reason why, look at these babies, these are fantastic, if I may say so myself. A lot of the reason why children do feel upset and they do have a meltdown, or they aren't able to concentrate, is because they feel anxious. And this happens at school, and you may have experienced this at home as well. So what I'm going to look at next is some basic techniques to help you manage their anxiety, and that will keep their stress levels down and help to keep them calm. So couple of things that I use, which are really sort of quite simple ways you can, it's like a funneling exercise. So the first thing you would do, your child is having a meltdown, or they're angry or upset, or don't want to do something, or don't want to cooperate, rather than get into a head-to-head, maybe just stop, come out of that situation and say, okay, so ask yourself, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling? And if they say, well, I don't know, or not good, or sad, or something like this, so you can ask them, oh, let's play a game. Why don't we try and remember the last time you felt really happy? And then what we're doing here is tapping into the part of the brain that stores good memories. And it might take a while for them to get there, but they will get there, and they might mention something that's really good. And then so we can actually encourage them to stay on that thought. So, well, that's really good that you're thinking about that time we went to Brighton Beach or whatever. So let's think about that a bit more. And then you will ask them to explain what they liked about it. So what we're doing here is actually accessing or triggering the part of the brain that is about retrieval of good memories. And this is really important because it's good for our children to have some way to access what makes them feel happy when they're feeling stressed or sad. So there's a simple sort of structure that you can go through with them. And then, or if that doesn't work, you can try external techniques like putting on a video, or, watching some comedy, or having a laugh together. But the idea is to break through that, whoa, don't know if you heard that, it's thunder outside. Is it raining where you all are? No? Absolutely chucking it down. It's like, that's why my head moved. I was like, whoa, what happened? So, yeah. So I think it's a really good technique. So I don't know if you can all see that, but just for them to look at and think about what makes them feel happy, and then, you know, really dwell on that. And then you've broken out, you help them to break away from that funk that they were in before. Or you can say, so rather than say, what am I feeling? Ask them, what are they thinking? Now, most people, if you ask them at any one point in time what they're thinking, they'll say they don't know, which is actually quite a difficult thing for people to say, oh, I don't know. You know, you were thinking something, but you don't know what you were actually, you don't know what you're actually thinking about. So this is actually quite an interesting thing. So say, okay, if you can't remember what you were thinking, how did that thought make you feel? So, oh, it made me feel really grumpy or really upset or whatever. So even though they haven't remembered what that thought was, they know that they weren't feeling good about what they were thinking. So you say, okay, so is it a negative thought? So what you can do is actually say, tell the thought to go away. So these are basic sort of cognitive techniques to help them lift themselves out of that mood and go into a mood that's more positive, or if not positive, more neutral. And I will be sharing these cards afterwards. So that's kind of a sort of basic technique to sort of break through the funk and break through the bad mood. Sometimes you just have to allow them to burn it out themselves and get through it, and then come at it later. There gets to a point when you aren't able to, this is the emotional dysregulation part of autism, which you'll all have experienced. But you kind of have to let them just get through that feeling and burn through that mood, and then come back to it a bit later on. So you can say, look, you know, I know you were upset earlier. Tell me about it, or ask them to do what you wanted them to do, but sort of forcing it at the time when they're in that funk and they've lost control isn't really going to help you. But I hope those little tips will help. What I've got to share as well is there's quite a few resources on the British Psychological Society. There's a brilliant piece about talking to children about coronavirus, and it's really, really good and really readable. So I'm going to share that with you, Vanessa, afterwards. And I've also got some more anxiety resources, which are fantastic. And I'd recommend, if you can, just have a quick look at all of these. I'm going to send all the links. So there's Young Minds, the charity Young Minds, the Child Mind Institute, the National Autistic Society, obviously. And there's also a mental health community that launched quite recently called Kooth.com. And there's a brilliant phone app, and I think it's from 11 or 12 up, so just beyond primary, but it's a really good app, and it's called Molehill Mountain. You know, when our children can, the smallest thing seems like the biggest thing, and that's a really good app. And what it does, it asks the child to capture what mood they're in and how they're feeling each day at certain points in the day. So that's a really good technique that you can use for them to actually get control of where they're feeling right now. And once they've got control and they have a handle or a tool to help them get control of where they're feeling, then you feel like you're in control as well, because you're working together to sort of manage those sort of ups and downs and those mood swings. So really all of this that I've just talked about is called psychoeducation. And what that means is that we are using the opportunity of the time we've got at home with our children to talk about their autism, or their autism and ADHD if they have the two together, and to be a friendly ear. So it's one of those things, we're a parent, but we're also a friend, and we're also their number one ally. And it's a really great opportunity, I think, to build that relationship, because it can be difficult, it can be fraught, it can be stressful and upsetting. And I think having a bit of time with them at home to kind of get shoulder to shoulder with them is precious time. So you know, there's always a silver lining to something that seems like, you know, you're trapped with with your family. But I think that, you know, it can make a family if you can get through a crisis. You know, hopefully most of us will come out the other side stronger. So I hope you kind of agree with that thinking. It's very much my positive side coming out here. So moving on. So in terms of home learning, people, the reason I said that, just for those of you that missed it, is there is an autistic girl who, like many autistic young people, is very logical. So things have to make sense. So you don't put the words home and school together. So, well, why not? Because home is home and school is school. And you know what? It actually makes sense. It makes sense because school is a building and there's friends there and teachers and toilets and playgrounds, and home is completely different. And I think that when we've all just been asked, you need to be homeschooling your kids. Okay, fine. Well, that wasn't what we're expecting, but we'll do our best. But I think homeschooling is not one size fits all. We have to adapt what we do to make it work for our children, to make it work for autistic children. And, you know, that is exactly why the government has said that children with autistic spectrum condition and other learning disabilities can go out for 2 walks a day. There's a little boy who I know who needs to be outside. He needs to be outside. He needs to have the fresh air on his skin. He needs to be able to touch the wall and touch things in his environment. And that's critical to understand that. So I think the flexibility is what makes it work for autistic parents. So what we've got is, there are a couple of articles, again, really good ones. I'll just share the links with you. So this is one that is a really good one. Oh, that I wrote. And it's in theschoolrun.com, and that's the link to it. So you can either take a picture of it, or I'll send the link to Vanessa later. You've got the link, fantastic. And the other one is, this isn't just about learning, this is just about generally supporting your child through the current situation. It's in mybaba.com, and it's special educational needs tips, and that's another one that I would recommend you have a look at. So it's got everything I've said today, and in a lot more words, basically. So going back to home learning, so I think as well as taking a lead from your child, there are some basic things that we can all do that help, and to be honest, I think they help all children, whether or not they have a diagnosis of ASD. I think we need to work in small time slots. I think we have to be realistic about how long their concentration span is going to be. To be quite honest, some children have actually, from reports I've had, found being at home without all the pressures of social interaction and teachers and all of that, they've actually found it a little bit less stressful and anxiety provoking than going to school. So we've kind of swapped some issues, the school issues, for different issues at home. But there are positives of them being at home and being able to learn in a different environment without the stress of the friendship, the social interaction, and the bullying. I mean, let's be honest, some of our children don't always have a happy time at school. So, you know, they've had the benefit of a different environment to work in. But these tips, small time slots, the concept of time for children with ASD can be an interesting one. So I would always recommend having a clock or something nearby so you can actually see how long they've actually done on their work. And I think, again, we have to be realistic about how important it is to get to their level. I think we have to be realistic, and I think if we sit with them and just give up an hour of our time and just sit with them wherever they are, living room, kitchen, bedroom, and just sit and spend the time helping in whatever way we can. I think to say go and do your work and expect it to be done is probably asking a bit too much. It depends on the child, obviously, because every child with autistic child is different. But I think that we have to sort of take a lead from them and get them into the comfort zone before they actually are able to learn anything. So supervise closely is what I'm trying to say here. Be encouraging. And I think that's the most important thing we can do. Whatever, if they read a page, if they read 10 words, you know, if they've done 2 sums, if they've done a picture, whatever it is, lash on the praise. And I think that's so important. Important for all children, but particularly important for our children who have other challenges to overcome. So yeah, let's just big them up big time. Make it fun and relevant. So I think that it's important that children follow the national curriculum. It's what schools are there for. But I think there's a whole load of other ways that children can learn things just by being around their parents' home. And, you know, what are you doing? Well, I'm making a shopping list, and they can help with that. They can help with, you know, I need to keep to a budget. I need to spend £30 today. And, you know, you can say, okay, what do we definitely need? And they can learn to prioritise. You can do spelling with things like a shopping list. You know, I think we don't need to get over hung up on, you know, particular topics from school. But we can certainly, you know, if we can access that, great, that's fantastic. And there's lots of parents who are really, really brilliant at geography, and they can help with French or whatever, and that's fantastic, particularly if your child happens to like that. But the most important thing is that they are doing some kind of functional learning, and that really means a more informal style of learning. They're learning things with you. They're learning to communicate with you. Hello. They're learning to make those thought processes and decisions that you might make, and you can talk all of that through with them, and that's still learning. That's still valid, and it's still, you know, critical learning skills. Okay. Make it fun, make it relevant, use a clock, I said that. Create a timetable. Some children like to know what's coming, particularly autistic children. They like to know to the letter. We have, my son is autistic and ADHD, and if I'm going to do something with him, he wants to know how long it's going to take before we've even started it. So I used to see that as a bit of a challenge. Well, you know, it's going to take as long as it takes. But actually what he was trying to understand in his logical way was, well, I've got to walk the dog, I've got to clean the bathroom, I want to hang out and watch this program on TV, I've got a PlayStation stream to do. So he's actually trying to work out how all that's going to fit in his day, in his mind. He's looking at it from a very autistic way, and it's not necessarily a challenge. And I think if you understand that, a lot of the behaviours that we see from children with autism can look like a challenge, and that is just because we haven't fully understood, and we're still learning what the autistic profile, you know, means. And even when we've learnt loads and loads, it will look completely different on every single child or young person. The last thing on the list of home learning is have some time off. And I think having some time to hang and enjoy yourself. I did a list, another piece about ideas and activities for games for children on the spectrum. And the game that is really simple is, you know, making something. There's 2 games: making something very big, very small. So making, you know, an elephant, a big thing, or a car or an aeroplane, and making it, shrinking it down. And you can work on a crazy project like that together. Or even making a camp in your living room with a quilt and the chairs, and, you know, just having fun. While it's fun, it's still learning, it's still educational, because you are sharing ideas, you're planning, you're using lots of detailed language. You've got something at the end of it that you've created, you can take a picture of it. So just be free, be creative on the home learning. You know, I think it's a big ask, and you know, my daughter's a teacher, and I have huge respect for the teachers, you know, particularly with special needs kids. So other things to think about for home learning, I think about their sensory needs. So there are lots of children who have issues with clothes, and how clothes feel, and, you know, labels and materials and textures and zips and all of that. So while they're at home, certainly both for calming and motivating, they need to feel that they're comfortable. Some autistic kids don't want to change their clothes, they want to wear the same things. They like the security of knowing what they're going to wear, and that it fits and it feels comfortable and it's familiar. And that's absolutely fine. I think we have to go with what works for them. So look at their sensory comfort, what they're wearing. Everything we do at the moment, but beyond, has to try to limit their triggers or their anxiety level. So this is what this is all about, really. It's giving us the tools and the skills to help them. And then there are things that we can do as well, like look at what their learning routine is. I mean, how do they like to learn? Unlike neurotypical kids, they very rarely will just dive straight into a piece of work and say, okay, right, I'm ready, let's do this. Sometimes you have to come at it from a much more circuitous route, and talk about it before. When we're doing home learning here, we actually talk about what's going to happen the next day. So we'll say, well, tomorrow you can do a little bit of art, and then we'll do a little bit of reading together, and we actually go through the plan the day before. And that particularly works because he likes to have that very logical, process-driven approach to his life, actually. That's how he likes to run his life. That's how he feels less stressed. I can't throw things at him that he doesn't know are coming, because I can see his anxiety rise almost instantly. So it's very much working out what's their approach, what works for them, and most of all, most importantly, what keeps their anxiety levels low. For those of you that are interested, there's quite a holistic approach to calming and motivating children. You know, in terms of complementary therapies, so looking at essential oils, so things like lemon and orange and peppermint are stimulating. So a few drops of those in a burner just creates a sort of bright energy in the room, and that could be great. It may not work for your child. In the same way, you might try calming essential oils for them to go to sleep, like lavender and chamomile. But because they are so sensory, you know, they experience the world through their senses, probably more than the neurotypical person. There's a lot we can explore in terms of how their senses, you know, the essential oils and smells and atmospheres, how that can make them more likely to feel calm or more likely to feel stimulated. We can almost manipulate their mood if we know what works for them, what soothes them, and what gives them, you know, a sense of energy and excitement and motivation. And if you think about it, those are just natural techniques, which are exactly the same as any other behaviour modification technique. We're just trying to make them more comfortable and be, you know, happy with the life that they're in. So I think do some research, look into essential oils, look into you know, things like weighted blankets, look into all of the sensory soothers. Some children like to have something on their nearby when they're working or thinking. It could be something to touch, a piece of fabric, it could be a stone, all kinds of things. And I think, you know, we've got a great chance to explore what their needs are, you know, really drill down into what their needs are. And I think that's going to be really important going forward, particularly as when they go back into school or back into the school environment, and that process, that transition is, even though it's staggered, it's going to create another, you know, wave of anxiety. I think when we've understood, you know, how they can be soothed and what their needs are, it's going to make that transition much less anxiety making for them. So yeah, so those are some of my home learning suggestions. Does anyone, I've kind of rattled through that. Does anyone have any questions on anything I've said? Because I did sort of throw a lot at you. I don't think I breathed, actually.
Lots of good info. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm tired.
Not a question, Vanessa.
My grandson's tiring me out. I don't know which is worse.
Okay. So someone on the chat said their daughter's only just had a diagnosis last week. Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how has that been? How has that whole process been?
Well, I mean, she goes to mainstream school. I kind of just thought a bit of a rubbish parent. Don't have any other kids, so I didn't have anything to compare her to. I felt like something, you know, she's got a lot of energy, and yeah, I'm having to lobby the school from September last year, and the response was always the same. She's a happy kid. And I just kept saying, I understand that she appears happy, but I'm incredibly anxious. And, you know, eventually they got an OT assessment, and the psychologist there said she believed Ava was ADHD, and she gave the diagnosis last week. But she also said she thinks that she's got high functioning autism as well, because she's bright, you know. So she's bright, but she's struggling. And I, you know, I thought homeschooling would be fun. And what I found was that I have to sit with her constantly and coach her. And once she grasps the concept, she's into it, she's away. But if it's almost if she turns away from the thing that she's studying and comes back to it, she's forgotten what she's doing. So it's stand. And we did 2 weeks of that, and then we did 2 weeks off for Easter, and I can't get her back into it. So there's a lot of, she's not, you know, I mean, she has everything that she said. This isn't school, mummy, my friends aren't here, my teacher is here. No, so it's not school. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm standing in. She was like, well, no, you're my mummy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she gets it. She's all over it, but you know, she's also got every excuse as to why she doesn't need to homeschool. And when it comes to trying to engage her in something, it's so erratic. It's like one day she can be keen, but you know, like today, for example, we started off quite well, and then I went to print some things off for her. When I came back, she was on a computer watching cartoons, and you know, that because it really overstimulates her. I've seen no computer during the day, you know, it's too stimulating. So I'm going to try Netflix off your computer. Oh, that was it. game over. You know, I couldn't get her back into this science project that she was really excited about. She's just furious with me.
I mean, it does sound like she has, you know, as you say, a high level of ability, and
Yeah.
she's quite switched on to what's going on. And you know what she's saying is right. You know, your mummy, this isn't school. And I think it sounds as though if you could do some kind of psychoeducation, you know, talk to her about what's going on, you know, almost talk to her like an adult. And I think she'd be able to access what you're saying, you know, say, yes, you're absolutely right. I'm not a teacher. But I think it'd be really useful to learn some things together. What would you like to do? You can ask her to lead it. You know, she's very bright, as you say. You can try a child-led approach. She may have a specialist subject. So another way in is to work around, you know, what is their passion, what is their love, what drives them. I mean, my son is particularly passionate about Fortnite, so he's got a YouTube channel and you know, followers and subscribers. And he just creates content and edit it, which is all fine, but it's not actually it's not on the curriculum, is it?
Yeah.
So, you know, but so we have developed a timetable. So doing a, you know, first of all, explain to her she's right, acknowledge her intelligence, you know, explain to her why you are being asked to do something to help her, you know. I think talk to her like an adult. Secondly, try and tap into her specialist thing, if she has a specialist thing, things that she likes to do. And then also with her, maybe build a timetable, so you can build in, you know, time for Netflix and whatever she wants to watch, plus a bit of time for whatever things you think she needs to learn, and also time to hang out, just you and her, just being mother and daughter. And I think it sounds as though she'd respond quite well to a kind of honest timetable and working in partnership with her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I have a question.
Sorry, someone said they have a question. I'm sorry. Is that, but Catherine, I was just going to say, are you still there? Yeah, very noisy. Just to say, if anyone wants to contact me offline, so that these are my contact details, and Vanessa's got those. So
Right.
have you got that, V? Yeah, fantastic. So because I can't comment on all of your individual, because I don't know the children. I can just give an overview. So I hope that's helpful.
I can send something on the chat. People can log on to it on the chat, so at least that it's in real time as well.
Yes.
Can I just ask a question about the whole rewards and consequences thing that everyone's talking to me about now? Is that if I say to my daughter, if you do this, then you get a reward, her brain immediately goes to the reward, just will churn anything out just to get to the reward. It's the whole carrot stick dangling. Forgets about the stick and just goes straight for the carrot.
Yeah. I mean, I think it sounds as though a slightly more sophisticated approach would work for her.
Yeah.
Because she's intelligent. I mean, I think the sort of what you're describing is behaviour modification, and it works well for, you know, younger children. But if they are, you know, I don't like the phrase, but you know what I mean, high functioning and able to be intellectually quick, I can't imagine that would work with her, quite frankly. I think you have to be a little bit more sophisticated, and you have to work with her, you know, explain to her what the things are that she might benefit from learning, and try and eke out what she's passionate about, and use that as a starting point.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, hello Jackie, hi there.
Oh, hello. I just wanted to say that my son Daniel has been diagnosed last year with Asperger's autism, and since he's been at home, as you say, you're talking about this logical brain. So he's saying, well, he's at home, why does he need to get up in the mornings? So one of the things that saved us is Joe Wick's exercise. So he really likes that. So he does get up to join in that activity. And I thought, right, he's up now. And then it's, why do I need to have a shower? Why can't I keep my pajamas on all day? We're not going anywhere. And it's all of this argument that goes on for ages just to get him into the shower, into his clothes. And so that's a struggle. So at the moment, I just thought, okay, if he wants to stay in his pajamas, as long as he's had his wash, then, you know, I'm going to live with that. But the other thing that he's had difficulties with is because he had a slight phobia of bees, wasps, and we used to walk to school, and in the open air, he was fine. But now that he's been in this confinement, to get him outdoors has become a real issue, even to go in the back garden. So we've been using some timers to say, okay, do 1 minute, and we kind of built up, and until we did a badminton in the garden, and it was nice last weekend. But to go out for a walk around the block, just can't get him to do that. I didn't know if you had any ideas.
I think it sounds like there is the CBT, which is what I trained in, is actually very good for phobias, because it's that thing, what's the worst that can happen? I will get stung, you know, and you kind of then work backwards from that, and there's a whole process, which is probably too long to go into, but in terms of the timer thing, I mean, that could make that could actually increase the anxiety, because he's, you know, the longer he is, every second will drag because he's panicking that something's going to happen. But the tools that I think there's the really good anxiety app, Molehills Mountains, and that's something that he can log into himself, because it actually helps with things like managing anxiety and looking at, you know, the scenario in your head, and then the scenario in your head becomes bigger than the actual thing. So he's making it a small thing. I mean, you know, I'm not saying that he won't get stung, but it's the likelihood, and it's all those rational thoughts that are becoming irrational thoughts. That's what's happening here.
Yeah.
So I could talk to you offline, you know, about a sort of program, but in the meantime, I certainly recommend looking at the anxiety app Molehill Mountains, and I might be able to find some information through Vanessa on phobias as well for you.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult with the bees, because he's come up with so many good arguments that he's looked it up, more people die from bee stings than from anything else. So, and because he's got allergies as well, he's worried. He says, I could die if he has a bee sting. So it's really hard, because he's never been stung by a bee, so I can't really rationalise out of that. It's been a real tricky one, really.
Yes, I mean, his phobia is very real to him, and it does need some intervention before it becomes, as you say, you know, you don't want him to become full-blown agoraphobic, and that's a concern that I have, because a lot of young people, because of this enforced lockdown, they may have mild issues with various things because of this enforcement. You know, lots of young people with autism love their own company. They love being in the house. They love the safety. They love the security. They haven't got to talk to anybody apart from a parent or a sibling. And it's bliss. But that's only when it's voluntary bliss. You know, when you want to be in on an evening, on the weekend, absolutely fine. But when you're forced to be in the house, all of the things that make you feel comfortable and safe, which is the big thing for, you know, for managing anxiety, is feeling safe, go out to the window, because now the outside is where the danger lurks. So we've transferred all of those anxieties that were just about manageable, and so the whole world is now, you know, a danger zone for all. There'll be loads of kids that don't want to go to school, more school phobia, you know, more social interaction. So we're so used to having our children working on their social skills and then they're going to have to go back out in the world, and they've been used to being just at home, you know, with you and the dog and not having to think about social interaction. So it is a big concern, but I think if you he probably does need a bit of a program to manage that phobia, you know, into a manageable thing rather than a big thing. But yeah, I can maybe send you some information offline on that, Jackie.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, any other questions?
Yeah, you asked a question regarding my home learning.
Yes, thank you for saying home learning.
Yeah, you was talking about if the child cannot learn, we can make a list to do the activity like a shopping list.
Yeah.
But if the child is not interested to do the list, like my son, he cannot write, but he try to do the list, but he can't write it. He do picture.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes he cannot do picture for everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you tell him, can you draw the tomato from your other stuff, he will tell you he cannot draw.
Mm.
So what do you think we can use for the child to make the list like a shopping list?
I love that he's doing a visual list. That's brilliant. I mean, the thing is, as long as it's recognizable to him. I mean, so say if you do the visual list and he's shopping and it's a circle that's colored red, I say, what's that? It's a tomato. As long as he can recognize it, actually, that's the main thing. But I think what he's done, he's made his own adaptation. You know, he's actually, if his writing is limited, he's creating a way that he can do something that is meaningful to him with the skills he's got. So I think that's fantastic. I think if he does anything and he can tell you what it is, that's the most important thing, that he knows what it is. He's created something that is useful and valuable to him. So he might want to use the shopping list and go shopping by himself. As long as he knows what those things are, that's the main point. I think that's really good.
Thank you. For like his homework, we try to do it. He cannot match in the picture.
Okay.
What he do, he was stressful, and then he's scratching the homework.
Yeah.
And some paper he crushed like that.
Yes.
So this morning we have too much. He run away from me. He don't want to do it. He rub in the floor.
Yeah.
Was telling me it's difficult. I don't know why the school has well send something difficult. They send it by the website to learn, but it was difficult for him. It was like a 30 minutes, but he wake up like a mother. He gets up like a more than 5 times on the table.
Wow.
Run away from me and come back, run away from me, come back. But and then later he was crying. Then we could finish the home learning.
Yeah. I mean, what's happening here is his you know, his moods are going up and down like this, and it's very common. My son used to do the same thing. So he'd say, I can't do this, and he'd take his pen and scratch through everything on the paper.
Yeah, he do that,
and tear it up and throw it.
Why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Because it's the emotional regulation. It's part of the meltdown. I talked about earlier, you know, the meltdown when they feel out of control. It's so then you have to go back into your calming techniques. When he's in the meltdown, when he's completely in a funk, you can't talk to him at that point. You can't, because it will make him more anxious. And then part of what his anger is his frustration with himself.
What was that? What is it? Sorry. My grandson being cheeky.
Okay, sorry, so Esther, so I'm saying, so what is happening here is a meltdown. There's a really good book that you can get on Amazon called Managing Meltdowns, and it's by Deborah Lipsky, Lipsky. I should write it down here somewhere. And it's a difficult thing to manage when they lose it like that. But I think what I did, I had to stop telling him off when he'd ruin his books, and then they'd send me a note from school, why has he defaced his book and why is his book torn and that's school property. And well, unfortunately that's what happens sometimes. And they can actually put in place, and maybe this is something you can do. I was going to say this, I'm going to show you all a bit later on. In terms of when you're preparing them to go back into school, you need to gather the information, because it sounds like he could benefit from emotional regulation. So there's a program that will help him manage his moods, and it's called the zones of regulation. So when you go back to school, or make a note of this, the zones of regulation, the program will help him manage his moods, manage the kind of the eruption, the volcano, and then the crash. And you can make it less extreme, you can make it more smooth. But he will need some help with that. He need some help with it. But I would make a note of that and speak to them when you go back to school. Before we go for a break, we're going to have a sort of 10-minute break or so.
Vanessa's got a quick question, then I think Hannah also wanted to ask something.
Yeah,
Suzy, what we got to remember, because obviously we've got a lot of young, recently diagnosed children, young people. So what we've got to do is, maybe Hannah can introduce, because remember we got to talk about PECS. I just went to Catherine. She doesn't know what PECS is. So it's about, we have to support them right now while they're in lockdown, because if they're not going to get no support now, we're going to have a lot of very frustrated young people, even the parents. So what we need to do as well, look at communication tools, so that anybody on here who doesn't even know what it is, so we can look at assistive technology as well, so that we can prepare them, so when they do go back into the school, they understand without having those shockers. So we've got to use social stories and the widget as well. But
yeah.
Hannah deals with that, so she said she'd just say a little bit about it quick. But Hannah, do you want to let us have a break first, and then you can come back with all your stuff and just show it to some of the parents? Because I know there's somebody else on here who may not know what it is as well. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's fine. Thank you, Suzy.
So can we just have like a 5-minute break, 10-minute break quickly, everybody?
Sounds good. I'll be back
Get
shortly.
coffee or something. Is that all right? You can we can all still talk, but I think she's got a wine. I need more than a wine. If you see what my grandson is doing, you would not want to know.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, when we come back, I've got a little form. I think it would be really useful for people to make some notes, because a lot of things I think people can take away from today, things they need to follow up on. And I think that's really important that it's all captured. So yeah, but I'll see you in 10.
So grab a coffee, grab a pen.
We all can still talk, whoever wants to talk. Oh my dear, you see what my son's doing? He was getting...
I got to check on Louis.
Oh my God.
See what he's doing.
And pouring it everywhere.
Oh dear.
All right. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What the time is now? You're right there, Hannah. So where's your stuff?
I'll bring it. I'm just taking it down here.
Yeah?
Let me bring it out quickly, yeah?
Yeah, bring some of your stuff for the families, because obviously some people on here who may not even know what the PECS are.
Okay, all right. Let me pull some out. Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because we got someone who's just a young
and I think I'll answer Esther's question.
All right.
About her son ripping the homework.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to see you back after. All right.
Mommy, what happened?
Well, in the video, we are break for 10 minutes. Charge my phone.
Wait, they're gone.
No. The battery is gone.
Your mute is off, Esther. Who went down?
Like this. So I think what we have to do is really as we are today, stick together, share the information, otherwise you are completely isolated. And I did try and develop groups in my school with other autistic parents and to go through the S.E.N.D and go through the channels so all the parents with S.E.N.D kids at the school could share and swap and support. And some schools are very reluctant for you to do that. You know, they say it's GDPR and we can't give you any other parents' details. So, you know, I've always advised parents, if you suspect or you know or you find out that there's another parent with a child in your school with S.E.N.D, make it your business to get in touch with that parent and build your own support network. And through the workshops that I do, I have a WhatsApp group of happy in school parents, and they just get along with it. I don't need to be in it. They just are their own support group. They've all find things to share with each other and support each other. You know, it's almost like having a kind of a subculture, you know, but that's the way it is. And I think it's very difficult. You know, every school is different. Every school will deliver S.E.N.D differently. Every school has a different head teacher, a different structure to dealing with complaints, to provision, to getting a diagnosis. You know, it's a complete scramble, and it does make it incredibly difficult for parents to, you know, understand. You know, the diagnosis pathways are different depending on, you know, which borough you're in, which local authority you're in, and which school you're in. So, you know, all of the issues that we are sharing are very similar, and we have to share this information between us as a S.E.N.D parent community.
Well said. I think Hannah looks like she's ready to share something. If we have, we can give her a little bit of time. Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Yeah. So I'll just start with communication, and then I'll quickly come back and give a little bit of contribution to Esther, the lady that said her son is ripping all the homeworks out.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so first of all, I just wanted to show you some communication stuff that this is a communication book for my son. Yeah, so you could put your child's picture on, and inside it, you could have various, you could have various photographs that you can make of different foods or fruits or drinks or whatever. So the child could communicate. This is a communication book. So apart from that, after they have a communication book, what you could also introduce, can you see it? Can you see? This is a visual timetable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a diary with the time of the pictures of stuff that you do. And then with the PECs, this is called the picture exchange PEC system. So we do have a breakfast on the top there. And then after breakfast, maybe you can put play. So when breakfast is finished, you put it into the finish thing here. And then the next one will be maybe play. Then after play, you cooking for lunch. So after you finish the cooking, it comes here, it's finished. Then maybe after lunch as well, you take it off and put it here. So this is a visual timetable, which shows the timetable of activities all the way until it is bedtime. Sorry, can you see it? This is bedtime. So at the end of the day, the visual timetable will be empty. Yeah. And apart from the visual timetable, we have something that we call jig. We've got the jig. The jig is little activities that maybe you do in the bathroom. Either you do, you finish the toilet, you flush, you wash hands, you dry. That short jig activity is finished. Or maybe you could come to this one. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see that one now.
Okay. So you can see this one, bath. After bath, you towel dry. After towel dry, you cream. You might use the deodorant and then you dress up.
Thank you.
So we can either have the visual timetable here of the whole activities for the day, or you can have a jig that is only a few activities that you would do. And apart from that, we've got this one. That is I'll put it here. It's the now and next that is used a lot. And then other ones that we can also have is that I have these little ones. It's just like a pocket size one that I carry with me. So when you're going out, we can just carry this pocket size one, put it on their trousers or somewhere, and you do have the basic activities like maybe their iPad or water. You see, so this is a very small one. When you're going out, you know, they might request for toilet or something like that. So there's so many PEC systems that we have, but we normally have to design it around the child. We design it around the child. Yeah, Vanessa.
What we're going to do, just let Suzy do it. And what we're going to do, as I said, we're going to try and book you. So next week, so anybody's interested that we can do the delivery, what we're going to do, the bespoke. So we're going to do it next week. So is that okay, everybody?
Yeah, so this is just a taste, of little bit of what we do. And just quickly to contribute to Esther's question, when she was saying her son rips the homework and everything, is Esther there? I think if a child is showing that action, it means he's frustrated. The work is too hard for him. He can't do it. You see, so maybe school is trying to push him a bit to do something harder. He's communicating that he can't do it. So it means you have to keep that book and show it to the teachers when you go back that he can't do it. And then we have to step down and give him activities that he loves to play, sensory first. And then you have to give him the homework, either English or maths, something that is not as difficult as what he has got. There's so many programs, so we have to teach you which one. Once you get to his level, trust me, he's going to be happy. But I think the work he's got is too much for him. Okay, and then you give him a reward after. I know he likes the train and slime and all that. So you tell him that you do 5 minutes and then you get 10 minutes of slime or puzzle or, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Suzy.
Okay. Thank you for that, Hannah. That was really helpful, and I hope it helped Esther.
Thank you.
I was going share.
Can I ask one question, Hannah?
Yeah.
Is it gone? Sorry, the question is gone.
Esther, we're running out of time, so can we do it? We can talk to her after. Is that okay? At the end? Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We just mute everybody.
Sure.
Okay. If I do this, can you still see me? Oh, I can't hear you. Vanessa, if I move that document over, can you still see me?
I can't see. I can't. What are you trying to show?
Well, no, I'm trying to read a document on the screen, but I want to know, can you still see my face?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Okay, I can read this like that. So, yeah, so I just wanted to share with you a couple of small passages from a book I've written, which is really a culmination of my experiences and my journey into working as a S.E.N.D professional. So I'm going to read the synopsis, and then if you've got any questions, then I'm going to go on to read a bit from the book. So it's called S.E.N.D in the Clowns, the book, and that's the acronym Special Educational Needs and Disabilities. So S.E.N.D in the Clowns. I started writing S.E.N.D in the Clowns years ago. It started off as a collection of diary entries and was mainly cathartic. I would write through tears of injustice. Through increasingly detailed research, I could see there was a compelling story to tell. So here we are. My aim isn't just to tell a personal story, but to keep parents informed and empowered and help them to untangle red tape and feel empowered as they march with their autism or ADHD child through a system that struggles to educate children who are different. It's packed with guidance and a moving personal story running through it. But S.E.N.D in the Clowns is an uplifting read. I describe it as a handbook of self-care and practical advice for parents who find themselves on the autism merry-go-round. S.E.N.D in the Clowns is a play on the acronym Special Educational Needs and Disability, hinting that these children's behaviour may look like they're either sad clown sitting quietly in the corner or zany clown performing slapstick tricks to make everyone in the classroom laugh. The reality is more poignant. These neurodiverse children are highly sensitive individuals who mask the pain and confusion of their neurodiversity in a school environment that is often frightening and confusing. The subtitle, Boys Behaving Badly, is based on the statistical reality that boys, more often than girls, are identified as being disruptive in the classroom, according to Department for Education. S.E.N.D in the Clowns is the story of one such boy, my son, excluded from school, aged 5, for bad behaviour. So, the structure of the book. I've put it into subheadings so you can dip in and out, or you can read it from start to finish. And there are mantras and lessons learned at the end of each chapter, so you can continue your journey with a sense of positivity and confidence. The mantras at the end are from the Sanskrit mantras to help you find your confidence as an autism parent. So there are two journeys in the book, my personal story and my professional story, and guidance for parents and professionals who work with, teach or support autistic and ADHD children. One of the early indicators of my son's autism was his drawings. Some of his early work is jagged and angry and symbolic of his inner confusion. He went through a stage of comic book drawings in playing card size, and he drew my wedding venue, Shepperton Studios, in about 30 minutes, creating a brilliant likeness. Some of his artwork is used in the book to show that many autistic children have hidden talents. The book is written broadly in the order of which things happened, and the drama of our lives is underpinned with analysis, thoughts, suggestions, and lessons learned, which you can apply and copy or take with a pinch of salt, whatever you want. It's no exaggeration to say that for some of you, this book could be a lifesaver, a friendly voice in each page, helping you to understand how the system works and how best to advocate for your child. You are always the expert in your child. Whatever influence I've gained over the years, I share with you. I'm an ordinary working mum with an extraordinary passion for equality in education. I know you're with me on that. Okay, so that's what the book's all about. So I hope that sounds interesting. Have you got any questions at this stage? Or should I just go and read a clip from the book? Should I read a live clip from the book? B, I can't, yeah, Mark's nodding, thank you. Obviously I can't hear you, so let me just find the clip from the book. Okay, here we go. Right. Ooh. Ooh. Hello, what happened there? Okay, so this is my clip. So, you can't always confide in friends and family. They don't always realise it, but their help can come across as judgmental. If you can't fully explain your feelings to close family, I've written lessons learned and mantras at the end of each session. Mantras can train the brain to focus on positive thoughts instead of those self-destructive ones that pop up in your head. Used repeatedly, they can help you stay calm through what can be an emotionally draining time. It may feel like you can talk, think, or worry about nothing else but your child. And it is like that, but you will have times when things go smoothly and your stress level goes down from crisis to calm. In this book, I have highlighted my experiences of being a single parent and a young mum of Black Caribbean heritage, because statistics show that this racial group has one of the highest rates of school exclusion from an average UK state school of all other ethnicities, particularly in major towns and cities. Some of my experiences will ring true with you, whatever your race or background. When your child is experiencing difficulties at school due to behaviour arising from diagnosed or undiagnosed special educational need, most schools put you, dear parent, in the spotlight. And what happens when we feel attacked? We fight back. I know it's hard, but try to rein yourself in. Stay calm. Talk to someone you can trust. Write it in your notebook. When you're in conflict with a school, local authority, or another institution, you must fight with words, evidence, logic, and with like-minded people, and in some cases, the law. Get a trusted pair of eyes and ears to sit in meetings with you. If there's no one to help, some charities or not-for-profit companies provide a service attending school meetings, particularly if the meeting concerns a forthcoming disciplinary process or arranging special educational supports. The examples and stories in this book are true accounts. I have changed the names, but the experiences are 100% real. I have written from the perspective of a mother of a son, but the parent-child relationship takes many forms. Everyone is welcome. I hope you enjoy reading this book, and it's a therapeutic, safe space for you to think about your emotions and work out what to do. Expert books on this subject delve into child psychology and development and behavioural milestones and all that. But the purpose of this book, of my book, is simple: to help you slide through the maze of special educational needs from diagnosis and beyond, ensuring your child is safe and happy and confident, and you remain sane. There you go, that's a little clip of the book, which is coming out in September.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so I'd love to answer any questions about the book, the writing of it, the contents, all of that. I may just I am still here, but I have to use the documents on my computer to answer any questions.
Suzy.
Hello, Jackie.
Hi. Thank you for sharing your views through your book and everything that you've presented today. I found really helpful. I've made loads of notes on my notebook here that I found helpful. And I think, like you and like perhaps many other parents, it has been a journey to get where we are with my son, for him to get the right diagnosis. And it's been 6 years. And I think you're right, we do have to be an advocate for your child. I had to give up my job last year, but I don't regret it at all, because now I've been able to devote that time to him. And at the moment we're in the stage of him going through getting an EHCP, the Educational Healthcare Plan, and we're at the final draft stage. So I'm, constantly going through it to make sure that I've got everything in that I feel that he needs. And it looks like he will get it. What I'm disagreeing with at the moment is the amount of time that they're allocating, and I'm trying to fight for him to have more time and also to get into the right school, because there's only limited places for the schools that I know can meet his needs. So I think everything that you've said has been really helpful, and I don't feel it's something that you can say that I know everything. I feel like I'm right at the beginning and I'm just learning constantly. I've got books, bedtime reading, I read a little bit, and because it is a struggle, it's not easy, because with Daniel, he finds it really difficult at night to shut down, and by 9 o'clock I'm completely whacked.
Yeah.
And he'd been put on melatonin, and I'm just a bit worried about him being on that, so I've taken him off, whether it's good or bad, and I'm trying natural things. And I will try some of those soothers that you've suggested to see if that will help him as well. So I really appreciate everything you've presented today, and I really thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're really welcome, Jackie. Have a look. I think in one of the chats, I may have sent my website. I hope you got that, the www.happyinschoolproject.com. Did you get
I don't know if I got that one. Say that again slowly. I'll just write that down. www.
I sent. Did you get that one, Vanessa? I sent a bunch of links of the articles. I sent them to everyone. I think I sent them to everyone.
If anybody just emails lambeth@nas.org.uk, I'll just resend everything out again.
Okay.
Just in case.
Yeah. So, so just going back to your son, I think the most important thing is that the EHCP clearly identifies his needs, his diagnosis and or his needs. And that is the most important thing. That is what defines what school he will go to. It's the one that best meets his needs. And sometimes it isn't always the one that the local authority are recommending or suggesting. So you need to be really firm about, what does the school offer and what are his needs and where the overlap is most close. And that's the thing that you actually really have to push for. And also once the EHCP is done, you will have an annual review. So that is a process you go through every single year with him. So, it's not a static thing. An EHCP is, moves as your child's needs change or develop. Some of them are withdrawn, the needs aren't there anymore, or some of them are changed, or they add bits on or take things away in terms of occupational therapy or speech and language or whatever. So, but if you don't feel that his needs are met once the EHCP is signed off, you have, and you feel that things aren't working out at all at the school he's in, there is a thing called an interim annual review, which is something that you'll do normally about 6 months in, or even an emergency annual review. So you don't have to wait a year, is what I'm saying, to make any changes to that plan.
Okay.
There will be a point at a year when, you get in the room with the SENCO and the SOLs and all of the support team, and review the plan. But if, you know, just so you know, if things aren't going as you expect and he's not getting what is in the plan, you can request that you have an interim or an emergency review. So good luck with that.
Okay, thank you. Because that's what we're looking at now, is his senior school.
Yes.
So to get it right, it's really difficult.
The transition is really, really one that needs to be handled carefully. And just from experience with lots of other parents, the transition, it can be so make them so anxious that they almost have a slight regression before they get back into a routine. It can take them, because of dealing with all the many changes and new people and everything is new. And what I'm saying is just expect a few little bumps in the road before it gets smooth. Don't panic if it isn't all perfect for the first few terms. It can take a while for it to really bed in, but if you're seriously concerned, you can obviously raise them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anywhere else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Everyone quiet? Everybody's tired?
Yeah.
Go and then, Esther.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. Suzy.
Yes, my dear.
Last year when I saw you with your son on that invention, and it stuck well, I think so.
It's a play game.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, all the children, they are different. I want to ask you, because that day your son did some logo. It was a show us there. I was surprised to see how he make that stuff, and he can write as well. My question is, how old your son was start to be writing by his proper idea, not somebody not to be copy the word.
Yeah.
How old he was start writing?
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, that took a while, because with children on the autistic spectrum, they can have developmental delay in terms of, it's called global developmental delay. So in terms of speech, in terms of writing, in terms of understanding. So it was a bit later than some of his friends.
8 years?
I'd say he was.
He can start 8 years or 9 years?
I'm trying to think what age he was. I'd say about 7, something like this. Yeah, 7. You know.
How many letters he put it together? How many letters? He can write a cat, dog, or something like that.
Yes, I think his writing at that level was okay. So
from his proper idea, yeah, from his own way.
Yeah, not copying. I mean, it took a long time. That was always an area that we had to do a lot of work on, but it did come eventually. But I sense that your thoughts are that your son might have some delays in that area.
Yeah, his speaking now is better than 2018, but he cannot write and he do copy, because I put him on a explore learning. So from there they teach how his handwriting, but before he can write, using his hand to write as well. But he improve to copy the word. His handwriting is nice, but he cannot write it by his own way, from his idea or his mind. Writing just cut from me, he cannot do it from his proper idea. Just cat or dog, he cannot do writing.
Yeah.
But he's 8. So what I'm worried, I'm looking like I'm giving up, because since 2014, I'm doing everything until now. I'm not seeing any improvement. He do his speaking language therapy since 2014, OT 2017 or 18. Until now, I'm not. His improvement is for speak, and then I can see like when the child is autism, to brushing the teeth is just coming recently. He's 8, but he can't brush the teeth. It starts now, 3 days now, but he can't hold very well. But I am happy. That's coming now. Good 5 years. That's coming now. And another thing, he can't eat like a vegetable thing. like a beans. When he saw bean, he can't eat. But yesterday he eats bean. I was happy. I take a video. You see? So some development is coming by his self. But I'm just worried about how, because of HSCP, it was there. We come from Tribuna. Everything is there. But I'm not seeing the improvement from writing by his own way. But you can see the teacher say, oh, he's writing this, he's writing this. When now we are locked down now, I was telling him he have to write it by his own way. He's telling me, Mommy, you are not helping me. It's not that way my teacher do it for me. My teacher writing for me. My teacher tell me the answer, and then I tick, and then the writing for me. I say, oh, this is the secret. Me, I can't write it for you. I want you to write it by your proper way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I mean, I know Hannah mentioned the system, the writing system, and there's also, I mean, you know, these are things. Oh, I meant to say things that you all need to fill in. Sorry, this is for you, Esther, as well. But before you leave, I give this to all my families. You need to make a note, because what you're saying is very important. We are seeing our children now up close in a way we didn't see them before when they were in school. So sometimes we kind of, the school are doing their thing, but we're not really involved in what they're learning and what their levels are. But now we're seeing what their levels are. Sometimes they can't concentrate for very long. So I think you need to make some points for yourself. So when you can speak to the school, you can write to them now. There's teachers are there, they're still doing work, particularly for our children, and just try and understand what can they do. Are they happy with the progress? I mean, there is delay from what you're saying, there is delay, but if he's making progress, then they will have their own targets for what that process will look like.
My son is in making progress for the school because they don't want Autism. They are Autism to have bad recording. But my son is no progress for me. You understand?
Yeah.
They deal by their own way. They know very well what the psychology put it for my son cannot do. They know very well. But they are pushing my son because of the Autism reporter. So what I'm trying,
Esther,
I
I'm
want
sorry
to
to
my
interrupt.
son from home.
Sorry, Esther, we got to be careful saying things on there because it's getting recorded and we don't want it to go outside. We'll have to edit it out. So you got to be careful when it's personal stuff. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
And only that,
so this question I'm asking to help my son at home, not for the school side. You got what I mean? What can I support my son from my home? Because I know school is not, when I tell school, you are not doing this, you are not doing this, they are not going to listen to me. So I want to help my son like I'm helping my son since 2014.
Okay, I see Vanessa. Thank you, Esther. I see there's a question. Is there another question from somebody?
I think we've got time for one last question from Raquel. Is Raquel still with us?
Yes, I still with you. I try to cook, make phone calls.
Multitasking.
Yes. The question I have, just when I was listening this, I have a phone call from the people that's supposed to be, they need to give the 15 hours to my daughter, yes? Supposed to be, I'm going to have a meeting tomorrow. They just cancel, yes? And how we can, when they cancel, we need to accept it, yes? But if it was me, the person who say the same thing of the agency, then now it's not safe, then I don't want my daughter, being raised and all these things, is that I'm difficult, yes? I'm difficult, they try to help me, but I don't allow them, yes? But when they're there, but when you put the ball in the corner and say, okay, you say you're going to give me 15 hours one-to-one, yes, I have the place that my daughter can do it, yes, it's safe, and they say, okay, we have the tutor. And in the last minutes they cancel, I need to accept that. And it's nothing I can do. And I think this is the process the parents we are, yes? We need to cope with everything, and it's okay when it's coming to us, but when we explain what we need, and the local authorities don't give or do what they promise they're going to do, is going to be okay. And what us like a parents, yes, can have a voice, then what they're going to do is not take your kids away, because I've been in this situation, yes? In Christmas, they try to take Jasmine and place her, you know, because supposed to be the best thing for Jasmine is not to be with me. And I think it's not true, but it's easier, yes? Because in this way, they don't need to deal with me and asking what Jasmine needs, yes? And what, as like a parent, sometimes we are really scared to speak of what we say, yes, because we worry that they take the kid away, yes, and what we can do to have what we need, yes, and when they say yes and after is no, what we can do, because I don't have a lot of money to look for a lawyer, yes, and it's not legal aid now, and to find legal aid is really difficult. I'm more in this situation. Then parents with us, we need to cope. I'm just praying that the kid is going to be 18 and it's not going to be your responsibility anymore, but it's unfair for the child. Then what we can do, my point is what we can do today, listen to us. And I know like an individual, I'm not going to be listened because it's only one person. You know, then how we can be like community to be together, then when we talk like once. Yes, who can answer?
I mean, I completely empathise with what you're saying, Raquel. I think there are quite a lot of community groups. I don't know if you're on social media. There are lots of groups, particularly that were around the campaigns a couple of years ago. Wandsworth S.E.N.D and Richmond S.E.N.D. There were lots of parent carer forums. So that I think, as an individual, having a voice is difficult. I mean, Vanessa, I think there are sort of Wandsworth Parent Carer Forum, and there's all kinds of, there's an organisation called Contact a Child, a national organisation called Contact a Child. There are the groups, and the groups are there, the organisations are there. I think it's just finding one that fits into you, and having a collective voice.
As I said, I know time is running out. I know that we're having our coffee morning next week, Tuesday, Lambeth Autism Group. So if anybody wants to tune in, we can actually continue this with some support. I mean, Suzy, if you are around next week to come join our coffee morning at 9:30 to 11:30, you're welcome.
That doesn't come into my one walk a day or an essential what's it, does it?
Yeah. So, I mean, in that way you can make it generic and ask questions.
Yeah. Tell me offline, or tell me when it is again. What day is it?
The 12th of May, actually 2 weeks time, 12th of May, 9:30 to 11:30. Oh, so actually it's 10. So it's 10 to, is it 10?
10 to 11:30, I think.
11:30. So it's just generic. Just anyone asking questions. But I tried to bring professionals on.
I'm in a different borough to you. Like, it takes me about an hour and a half to get over your side. I'll see what I can do, though. It'd be lovely.
No, it's virtual, Suzy, just to clarify. You don't have to leave your front room.
It's okay. You can still...
I'm desperate to get out of the house, obviously.
Yeah, I'm afraid you have to make your own coffee for this coffee morning.
Oh, well, you know what?
Anyway,
thank you
very much, Suzy, for a really interesting talk. And much appreciated spending your time with us. And thanks for everyone else for joining.
Yes.
And this has been recorded. I'll just stop that now. And Vanessa can send out the link to anyone who perhaps missed the beginning or wants to pick up any of the useful links that were shared.